Tales of Estolia by Sashina Kerfman. Volume 1. The Promise of Zacharias. Part 7. Catalyst of Change. Chapter 11. The Pathway of Faith. Our isolation from the squabbles and petty bickering of the rest of the planet has kept us out of many conflicts that would otherwise have torn us apart. There will, however, come a time when, as a nation, Estolia will have to step in and take a greater hand in the events shaping the world. At some point, a leader will emerge who will be able to bring together the factions of this planet and procure a secure and lasting change in the deep enmity driving mankind to war. Maximiliano Sebastian Zakarian, Capitulo 85.
Caris woke to the feel of a hand on her breast. She rolled over and smiled at the man who had possessed her a few hours earlier.
"Hello,"
she said.
"I hope you are feeling well rested."
He moved closer to her, brushing the hair out of her face before kissing her gently. His tongue brushed against her lips, seeking access and then taking advantage of her yielding to him. His kiss grew more passionate. She felt the heat of his arousal growing between them. As his mouth danced with hers, she explored his body with a greater sense of sureness, her fingertips enjoying the tactile sensation of his silky skin over firm muscles. The eventual merging of flesh felt more significant than their coupling earlier. Now she felt as if Zeb was more than just the man who saved her from Sloane Danvers. She would have come to care for him if they met and dated like ordinary mortals. After, he held her closely while their heart rates slowed down. It was obvious that Zeb was much more than a means to an end, and for the first time she was grateful for the absurd will her father wrote. She never would have been brought into Zeb's orbit without it. Later he climbed out of the bed and held out a bathrobe for her and then donned a similar one. Zeb guided her out to the tiny dining room. She opened the refrigerator and saw a note that said, "Meals are provided. Open the door to request your meal." She passed Zeb the note, and he chuckled when he read it.
"I knew those who entered this suite would be pampered."
He went to the double doors and pushed one open. She heard him exchanging a few words before he closed it.
"We will have a meal delivered in less than 15 minutes.
As they prepared for bed on their last night in the seclusion suite, Caris mentally reviewed the previous 7 days. They were visited on the third day by an elder with a bilingual copy of the Adaos of Marriage for Elders. Even though Zeb would not be partaking of the elder year, the note explained that the contents within were important for anyone marrying in the Estolian manner. They had been given several blessings. After the last one, they were told the blessings would be transcribed and, for her sake, translated and presented to them. The blessings were necessary, no matter how extraordinary it was to be given so many. As the catalyst and conduit of change, they were both instruments of fate and deity. Guidance was the one thing deity planned to give them in abundance.
"What will happen tomorrow?"
Caris asked Zeb.
"Tomorrow my brother will ask me about the consummation of our union."
He smiled at her wryly.
From an outsider's perspective, it might seem bizarre that such a personal topic would ever be asked openly, but if you consider it, we have been reading some of the erotic exploits of my ancestors in the Adios, Capitulos and Ensayos. Our culture is very open about these things. One of the things I was not promised was that my wife would be a virgin. To an Estolian man, that is a tremendous sacrifice. I was asked to give that up in the interests of Estolia and of the planet. I was willing to fulfill my destiny, marry the woman that fate would decree to be mine, and by doing so, I was willing to give up the most exquisite connection any human being can ever experience."
He broke off what he was saying, and Caris was surprised to see the glimmer of tears on his lashes.
"I was willing,"
he repeated in a whisper.
"I don't understand, Zeb."
He closed his eyes and took several big breaths before finally continuing.
"I shall explain more fully at another time. Share with you some of the most critical teachings of our faith. If a man is willing to embrace the teachings and the promise of Zacharias, he can expect an extraordinary connection with his wife-to-be. There is a profound spiritual and physical connection between them that cannot be severed."
"I'm still not sure I understand."
He rolled away from her and asked.
What are you feeling right now?
She responded promptly.
I don't like it when you move away from me. I feel lonely.
He moved close to her, holding her tightly against his body.
And now?
When we touch, I feel extremely close to you. It brings me happiness.
You keep my soul, Chrysandra Zakarian. As such, you connect with it and know what it wants. It knows its rightful home is with you, but it still wishes contact with me. When we touch, my soul is happiest. This will never change. I will never wish to be apart from you for any substantial length of time.
He smiled at her, and then reached for the capitulo they had been reading. He flipped it open to one page and said,
What does this say?
She looked at the lines he pointed out and read from it.
Faith to the sons and daughters of Zacharias is in believing the promise. Zacharias made to deity will result in the blessings deity proclaimed would be their reward. Faith rewarded to each Estolian, rewarded with tactile, spiritual, extraordinary precision. Faith.
She looked at Zeb and smiled, somewhat puzzled.
Look again at the page and note the placement of my hand.
Zeb said. She looked at the book he held. Like all the books they had been reading, it was a dual translation copy, with the text on the right in English, and the text on the left in the Estolian script. Zeb's hand was placed over the English translation. She had been reading from the Estolian.
How is that possible? I have only been studying the Estolian language for a week.
The words in Estolian just made sense to her when she did not think about it.
Because, my dear, you keep my soul. When you relax, you discover my soul helps you in this transition to living with me in a foreign nation. We will not live here permanently, of course, but we will visit. Our children will grow up bilingual.
He picked up the book and set it on the bedside table, turning off the light at the same time.
I no longer worry about our coming interview. I look forward to it with an acute sense of joy. However, my wonderful Caris, I think tomorrow will come soon enough. For now, the two of us should enjoy the last night of our seclusion.